is the lie you try to stifle.
No, no, coming now!
Oh, where am I? You washed up.
Sorry?
Welcome to the island of discarded women, my friend.
I used to be somebody. Are you that woman on the radio?
Your island job is peladora de papas.
Sorry, what?
Potato peeler. 87% match for your skills.
Okay, that's not... Anyway, what is the second best match then?
Host of the Island Podcast.
Are you kidding me? No, see, that's me. That's perfect for me.
And now she rises.
Hi, everybody. Just like so many of us right now, we on the island of discarded women are staying safe by staying home. So instead of a live show this month, we put together this virtual episode. We got really creative with how to record our stories. A couple of us have modest recording setups at home, but a cell phone in a closet full of clothes worked well. The inside of a car. That recording actually happened during an Easter Sunday blizzard. So a little fun fact about that. And then there's the omnipresent Zoom. I Zoomed a feature with our special guest and attempted to do a check-in via Zoom with everyone isolating in their bungalows on the island. But the Wi-Fi is spotty. So our island Zoom check-in was not very successful. Day, are you there?
I'm here. How about you?
Okay, what? I'm sorry, what did it say again? It said what?
Hi, Shanan.
Hey, I'm here.
Mary? Hello?
Hello, my name is Miri. For English, say one.
Hey, Mary.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Mo. There's Regina, too. Yeah.
She doesn't have her audio on.
Regina, turn on your audio. Yeah.
Look at you guys.
So I'll talk.
What was that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Where's Nancy?
Oh, she sent a thing. Zoom overwhelms me. Taking a nap. Love you all.
Zooming who? Now the fish jumped off the hook.
Interview and
Oh, didn't it, baby? Tell me, baby.
Hi. Thanks for calling the Anger Hut. Due to the COVID-19 virus, we are reducing our hours and are working on creating a safe space for you to blow off some steam. But metaphorical steam, because actual steam would be unsafe. Actual punching, where you punch an actual thing, is no longer allowed. But we do have air punching rooms that we clean extensively between sessions. Our news cycle room is officially closed until further notice. We are offering news cycle scream sessions available via Zoom. And of course, our rage hand washing rooms, where you wash your hands aggressively, are open 24/7. Mostly we at the Anger Hut want to wish you peace, because while this ongoing crisis continues to reveal the beauty in our humanity, there's also a pandemic going on, and science is real. So maybe you should wear a mask, because science is an actual thing. Air punch! Thanks for calling, and leave your message after the beep. Namaste.
Early in the quarantine, as my inbox was filling with cancellations of upcoming jobs, and I felt myself staring down the barrel of a global period of darkness and disease, my husband, Quentin, and I started watching Ken Burns' documentary about the Dust Bowl. We noticed it was streaming on Amazon Prime, and it seemed like a useful way to put our current crisis in some historical context, to remind ourselves that America has been through tough times before. Immediately, I was struck by the many parallels to today. In the 1920s, millions of acres of American high prairie land were stripped of their native buffalo grass so farmers could plant wheat. They churned up the topsoil and planted an ocean of monoculture to feed the hungry maw of a growing nation. For a while, the money poured in. Then the drought came, as droughts do. In the 1930s, clouds of dust engulfed the plains. The grass that had held the earth in place was long gone. Massive walls of towering dust blackened the sky, killing livestock, choking them to death with dust. The storms kicked up such high levels of static electricity that when people shook hands, the shock could knock them to the ground. This went on for years. And get this. Thousands of people were infected with dust pneumonia, or as they called it, the brown plague. People wore face masks and goggles to protect themselves. When supplies ran low, the Red Cross issued a call for 10,000 more masks, but it wasn't nearly enough. Emergency hospital wards were opened in church basements. High school plays were canceled because the gym floors were covered in cots. The footage and images of all this from the 30s are amazing. The Oklahoma Panhandle looks like the Sahara. There were literal plagues of locusts. The dust storms could block out the sun for days at a time. The air was unbreathable. This was biblical stuff. Watching it together, Q and I would look at each other and say, Jesus, I guess things really could be worse. So, how did the Dust Bowl end? Eventually, farmers were paid to leave their fields idle. They learned how to manage their land more sustainably. The federal government converted 10 million acres back to grassland. The grass's roots again did what they had always done, held moisture deep in the earth and formed a scaffold for the soil to cling to. I'm thinking now about what our version of that will look like today as we dig out of all this pain, some of it caused by nature and some caused by our own choices, the way we've organized our economy and society, the way we've left whole swaths of our population overworked and exposed, vulnerable and raw. I'm thinking about what it means to recover, to recover, to regain the topsoil that nourishes life and the network of roots that hold it together below the surface. I'm thinking about the healing that's only possible with idleness. I'm reaching for my neighbors, invisibly, underground, hoping we can form a stronger scaffold, hoping we can anchor each other, revive the wisdom of connectedness, feel our way back to balance. Once the dust has settled, once this storm has passed.
Dear Diary, March 16th. Today everything was canceled. Everything. It's the day before St. Patrick's Day, and I think it should be forever remembered as Canceling Day. Like Boxing Day, only not as much fun and less food. March 18th. One thing that's come from all of this is I have finally made the difficult decision on how to spell the words canceled and canceling. I'm going with the British Standard Version of 2 L's. I feel solid about my decision, and my anxiety is lifted as I think about the ease with which I will use these words. For example, all of March, canceled, double L. So good to have this off my plate. March 20th. There's an obvious letdown after Canceling Day. What was once a buzz of emails and calls telling me that everything was canceled, 2 L's, came the quiet. Although it was nice to hear from Sephora and Claire's Boutique. They are wiping things down, and they really seem to care about me. I miss them. March 22nd. I think my dog has the best comedic timing of any pet I have ever owned. Just a natural. March 25th. It's been a while. Everyone is watching Tiger King, and I find myself once again all FOMO. That's fear of missing out. I looked it up. It's like the Game of Thrones all over again. Breaking Bad. Dallas. March 28th. I haven't seen my husband in like 4 hours. That's weird. I mean, did he leave? I guess I could go downstairs and check, but that's all the way downstairs. March 31st. I organized my kitchen junk drawer and discovered that it really was just junk. So now it's just a kitchen drawer. Should I still call it the junk drawer and put useful things in it? Sort of a fun, ironic use of storage? Or perhaps it remains empty? Who's to say? April 3rd. It's 3/4 of an ounce of bourbon, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, lemon juice, orange juice, champagne. I don't have orange juice or lemons, the syrup, bourbon, champagne. I don't have. So I have spaghetti. I'll have spaghetti. April, I don't know what day it is or the time. These are constructs I simply don't require anymore. I am free. April 5th, maybe. Who's to say? I found some frozen orange juice in the freezer. I am the luckiest person alive. Oh, my dog is so funny.
The Apocalypse Journal by Nancy Bagshaw Reesner. Monday, March 23rd, 2020. I went to my dentist again today. 3 weeks ago, on March 1st, just before all this social distancing started, I had been in for my annual checkup, and he discovered some infection under a molar. So he cleaned up the root and put on a temporary crown. I was to come back today, 3 weeks later, to have him seat the new porcelain crown. But everything that is deemed non-essential has been closed in Minnesota, so I called him to see if my appointment was still on. He said, "Well, I'm only handling emergency stuff, but I consider you an emergency because you have such a wide smile." Charlie has been my dentist for 30 years. He's so aptly named. He looks like a grown-up Charlie Brown, with a tummy as round as an apple and a moon face and a gap between his front teeth. He's warm and kind and adorable. He was wearing one of his trademark sweatshirts, bright red. "These shirts come in every color, even yellow," he said happily as I entered the office. Then he added that he and his wife got takeout from Olive Garden restaurant last night, and it was great. He was wrapped in a sheet of plastic that had been stapled in the back, and a blue mask covered his grin. His assistant Anita looked like an astronaut with a hood over her hair and yards of plastic covering her black sweatshirt, and of course a mask. She was disinfecting everything continuously. She sprayed and wiped the doorknob I had touched with my gloved hand as soon as I released it. "We're taking no chances, Nancy," she said. Charlie kept dropping things. "God," he said, "I'm all nerves." I said, "You want to do this another day?" "Oh, no, Nan, no." He always calls me Nan. "I don't want to risk you getting an infection in the gum and me maybe dying, and then, geez, a lot of dentists won't even see anyone but their own patients right now, so boy, you'd be in trouble. I'd never forgive myself." I climbed into the chair, and Charlie gave me a shot of Novocaine and started wiggling the temp crown to get it to release. Then the mailman came in, some youngish guy named Mark, a real dude. He apparently regards Charlie and Anita as confidants, so he blathered on about how his girlfriend's law office, where she's a paralegal, had to shut down because someone tested positive for COVID, and now maybe she has it. Anyway, she says she doesn't want to hang out with Mark anymore, for at least a while. Mark goes on, says that he thinks she's lying, though, that she just wants to break up with him, and she's using the pandemic as an excuse. By this time, Mark was in the exam room with Charlie and me. He leaned against the door frame and popped a chiclet in his mouth. "So what do you guys think?" he said. Charlie looked at him. "Well, you and your girlfriend have broken up before, you know. Twice in just the last 6 months, wasn't it?" "Yeah," says Mark warily. Charlie continues, "Well, I'm just saying it might be a sign." "Of what?" says Mark, the mailman. "That you should just move on," says Anita. Mark looks at me and says, "Wow." I shrug. I can't talk because Charlie's hand is in my mouth. Mark leaves, and Anita goes into overdrive, spraying the waiting room, the doorknobs, the reception desk, the ceiling, and the air, and all the time mumbling, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph." When my tooth was done, Charlie said what he always says, "There you are, you're looking good, Nan." There was some discussion of my new insurance and how he accidentally billed my old insurance, which rejected it, but he said, "Oh, let's not worry about payment now. We'll have time later. We're going to get through this, you know." Charlie and Anita walked me to the door. Then I shared a joke I had heard the day before. "You know why there's such a shortage of toilet paper? Because every time one person coughs, 1,000 people shit." Charlie and Anita laughed explosively. Then Charlie had a coughing fit. Anita screamed, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Charlie, cough in your armpit." And she sprayed everything again as I left. But as I was backing out the door, I told them I hold them close in my daily meditations every day. And then I send them my wishes that karma will protect them, keep them safe all their lives. And mainly, thank you. Thank you, Charlie and Anita, for being so brave. And I blew them a kiss. I could hear Anita spraying as I walked back to my car.
Breathe in, breathe out. That's what I'm told life is about. Wake up, go to sleep, nothing else in between. Am I wrong for wanting more than a life alone that's shut behind a door? But I'm one step closer every day till I finally see your face. I long for your embrace. It keeps me whole and you're my stepping stone of grace. I needed heaven's gate, for it's the only way I'm holding on to faith. If there's love you can find, then send it out like Valentine's. 'Cause the world sure could use a little more love, a little more you. Is it wrong if I fall? The last time that I flew I can't recall, but I'm one step closer every day till I finally see your face. I long for your embrace. It keeps me whole and you're my stepping stone of grace. I'll need for heaven's gate, for it's the only way I'm holding on to faith. I'm one step closer every day till I finally see your face. I long for your embrace. It keeps me whole and you're my stepping stone of grace. I'll need at heaven's gate, for it's the only way. Oh, I'm one step closer every day till I finally see your face. I long for your embrace. It keeps me whole and you're my stepping stone of grace. I'll need at heaven's gate, for it's the only way I'm holding on to faith.
Okay, so what if the first people to get sickened by the virus weren't elderly people in a nursing home in Washington state? What if they were young people? Like what if it was a school full of kids? Would we have paid attention more from the beginning? Or what if it was a sports team? Like a championship sports team. I mean, not a women's team, like a real team, like the Cowboys or the Patriots. Would we have reacted faster, do you think? Or what if the first people to get sick were like from a church, like from a big evangelical church? I mean, they say they're waiting for Jesus to come take them home, and the virus could certainly do that. Yeah, never mind. Okay, what if the first infected people were like Navy SEALs or no? You know, there was that big family gathering in New Jersey. Many got sick. 4 died. I mean, the matriarch was so sick before she died, she wasn't even aware that 2 of her children had died first. Really sad story, and a cautionary tale about large gatherings, even with family members. But ultimately, I think they were the main ones who cared about that. Okay, a large company with lots of employees falling ill. You know, that may have spurred faster action. No, the large outbreaks in the meatpacking plants aren't even mandating them to shut down to save their workers. So, yeah, that wouldn't have mattered. And, you know, those employees are mainly brown people, so they don't count. Okay, so what if the first person to get sick from this virus was you? I mean, other leaders have gotten sick. I mean, Boris Johnson got really sick. And Prince Charles, he tested positive. I mean, the virus isn't picky, right? So yeah, what if you were the very first person in the United States to get this virus really bad? I mean, I'm sure you'd think it was a cold, initially, or maybe the flu. I mean, it couldn't be that Chinese thing. I mean, you're not Chinese. But then you start having a cough, which gets worse, but you're strong. I mean, you can handle coughs better than most. And actually, you can't breathe very well, but that's just because you're busy. Busy people sometimes can't breathe. Many people have told you that. So, maybe you just need to take a walk, around a golf course. But not today, because you really don't feel well, and it is kind of hard to breathe, and your cough is getting worse. Oh, great. So now they want you to go to the ER, but you're not going to the ER. Only weak people go to an ER. I mean, you like people who don't have to go to the ER. But okay. To humor them, you go. Plus, you do feel kind of crappy. Okay, at the ER, they tell you you're not getting enough oxygen, which you question. Because you have the best oxygen of anyone. I mean, everyone tells you that. But your levels are too low, they say. So they send you to the ICU. And you tell them, you know what? I was totally fine 2 days ago. But your lungs are filling up, which is why you're gasping for air. So they tell you they have to intubate you and put you on a ventilator, which you are like, no way. That's for other people, not you. People like you breathe on their own. But actually you can't. So you say, fine, just so they'll stop talking about it. But the intubating process is super uncomfortable. So they sedate you. They have to. But you won't be totally out. You'd just be more like asleep. So after the tube goes in, well, you feel like you're drowning. So you try to pull the tube out. Everyone tries to pull the tube out. So they have to tie your hands down. They have to tie everyone's hands down. And though you can't speak, the terror in your eyes signals your fear to the nurses and the doctors. But there is nothing they can do about that now because they have patients lined up and down the hallways and refrigerator trucks parked outside. And everyone had terror in their eyes in Wuhan and Italy too, but we don't know about that because, we have the best information of everybody and we don't need anything from anybody else. Okay, here's the deal. You do actually have that Chinese thing, but no one tells you that because they know you don't want to hear it. But because you do, you're just way too contagious to have anyone in the room with you. There was a guard outside your door for a while, but now he's not feeling so hot, so they sent him home for 14 days. So you lie there alone in a room on a ventilator. A FaceTime meeting is discussed, but the hair is not good. So that's dismissed. And multiple times a day, a nurse wearing a homemade cloth mask over her soiled N95 and a pair of ski goggles and a garbage bag over her scrubs with a Major League Baseball rain poncho over all that. She comes in and takes your vitals and checks your oxygen levels. And sometimes she talks to you and sometimes she sings a little. It really bothers her that you have to lie there all alone without family, without anyone. So she sits and she holds your hand for a while when she can. But she has other patients. The hospital is overwhelmed. So she tells you she'll see you in a little bit, and she leaves. And again, you're all alone, on a ventilator, in the ICU, very sick and very contagious. People are praying for you. Lots of people are praying for you, which is terrific. Prayers can definitely help. But power can't, and money can't, and ego can't, and your name on a check can't, and sarcasm definitely can't. Instead of a bunch of old people in a nursing home, what if the very first person in our country to get really sick from this virus was you, sir?
I could show the world how to smile. I could be glad all the day. I could start my life all new if I had you.
On April 1st, this adorable singer died of the coronavirus in a care facility in Little Rock, Arkansas. She was the second in her nursing home to die from the virus and the 11th in the state. Sadly, there have been many more since. We hear the daily number count of the deceased, but what we don't hear often enough is who are these sweet souls who represent those numbers. So let me introduce you to Fran Jansen. She grew up as Frances Ann Bovick in Omaha, Nebraska. While singing for a local radio station, she was discovered by the popular big band leader, Frankie Carl. She toured the country with his band, which eventually led to her signing a contract with 20th Century Fox Records in 1949 and moving to Hollywood. I had a delightful conversation with Fran's son, Drew, about his mom. Drew's an old friend and a very, very gifted musician and lyricist. But before our conversation, here is Fran in 1949, going by her stage name, Fran Barkley, being interviewed by a Hollywood reporter.
Fran Barkley. Come on in, Fran, and say hello.
Hello, everybody.
I understand you're quite new to California, Miss Barkley. What state has the honor and pleasure of calling you a native, daughter?
Oh, well, I call Omaha, Nebraska my home, but you're right about my being a newcomer to California. I've been here just a little over a year now.
Are you getting used to the climate?
Oh, it's wonderful.
You better say that.
I'm sold.
Well, tell me, were your talents confined to Omaha before you came out here to California?
Well, for the first few years of my singing career, they were. You see, I have an older brother and sister who sing, too. And the three of us used to do quite a bit of work in and around Omaha. Then, of course, the war came along, and my brother and sister both joined the service and left their baby sister all alone.
You're the baby sister.
I'm the baby sister. Well, gee, and then there was nothing else for me to do but sing solo from then on.
Well, look, Fran, would you give the folks a little bit of your background as a singer?
Well, I won't go all the way back because I really started singing in public when I was 9.
For Lincoln, huh?
No, Washington. Most of my work, though, has been in the Midwest. That is, up until the last 2 years. I was a band vocalist and had my own show over the Mutual Broadcasting System, made quite a few appearances on ABC and NBC, and I've been doing quite a bit of television, too.
What band did you sing with mostly, Fran?
Who else? Frankie Carl, my favorite. See, the band traveled all the way from New York to California, playing every big and little city along the way. The tour was wonderful.
Sounds like it.
Oh, gosh, yes. But, see, it gets awfully tiring after so long, you know, so now I just want to stay put.
Spent too much time on the buses, huh?
Yeah, those Greyhounds.
Yeah, well, I can't blame you a bit, Fran. Now, tell me, did you come directly from Frankie Carl's band to 20th Century Records?
No, I came by way of CBS.
What is this, a pedigree?
No.
Where have you been appearing in California, Fran?
Oh, gee, there were a lot of them. I can't remember all of the places, but, well, maybe I shouldn't say this. It sounds like a commercial, but I remember my very favorite spot. It was the beautiful Chi-Chi Club in Palm Springs.
That's one of my favorites, too, Fran.
Oh, I love it. It was so wonderful, but the only bad part about a spot like that is a girl can get awfully lazy just getting brown in the sun all day long and singing all night long.
Yeah, I imagine so, but judging from the way you sing, Fran, you won't have a chance to get lazy now that you've signed with 20th Century Records. I think they're going to keep you pretty busy.
I hope so.
I could be a queen, dear, and cry.
Through the magic of Zoom, Fran's son Drew, armed with a glass of seltzer water on ice and an occasional text from his sister, shared stories about his mom.
She was the youngest of 3 children, Depression-era kids, and so Mom started off in radio in the Omaha area, working at 2 stations, KBON and KFAB, of all things, which were her initials. She ended up working a little bit of everything, some secretarial work, some on-air talent, some, I'm sure she probably did commercials, just
Sure.
like people did back in the day, a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
so that's how she got her start, was in that, and then... started singing with bands in the
area. So Frankie Carl.
Right. Yeah. For those who don't know, Frankie Carl, people, the name isn't quite as big these days as Glenn Miller, but back in the day, he was up there. He was
the thing. He hears your mom singing.
His mom told us she's at home. She's probably 20-ish, having dinner with her family, and the phone rings, and it's Frankie Carl.
Hello. I've got Frankie Carl on the phone. Is Fran Bovic there, please?
Placing the person for Fran Bovic.
Yes.
The problem was.
It's Mr. Frankie Carl's looking for Fran Bovic. Is she there?
And just because this is the way her life pretty much always ran, like a cheesy MGM musical, she auditioned for Frankie Carl over the phone, and he said, get on a train and meet us in Buffalo on Saturday. So
oh
she
my gosh.
went back to dinner and said, I just auditioned for Frankie Carl, one of the biggest band leaders in the country right now, and I'm joining his band on the road in Buffalo, New York next week.
It's like a scene out of a movie. Then she gets this contract to move to Hollywood. Right.
She ended up in Hollywood and did a couple of things. She worked as, in addition to continuing singing on the radio, she also got a part-time secretarial work with a couple of people you may recognize. Ed Wynn.
Oh, Ed Wynn. Yes. Okay. Sure.
And,
of course.
Also, Alan Lane, who was the lead. He was Wilbur, the owner of Mr. Ed. And I don't know what Alan Lane was doing back then. Apparently he had, I don't know if it was a radio show or a television show, but so Mom did secretarial work as well as working as a demo vocalist.
Okay.
And also doing some radio in the Los Angeles area from time to time. So she did a little bit of everything and kept her toe in music and ended up signing a contract with 20th Century Fox Records, which you heard about on that interview. It was kind of a stable of people like they used to do in the old movie studios, where they would have young people whom they would groom. And if they broke out and became stars on their own, fine. But in the meantime, they also could help, record new songs and then see if Dinah Shore wanted to record it or.
Who would have been the stars at that point? This is 1949.
Well, it would have been the Dinah Shores. It would have been
Doris Day. Would it be Doris Day?
Peggy Lee.
Peggy Lee.
So this was an exciting time to be a female vocalist because they were sort of starting to carve out their own niches away from having a boss man.
Who knows? Maybe one of those songs your mom demoed, and then Peggy Lee or Doris Day, get me that song. I want that song, but, which is another scene out of the movie of Your Mom's Life. And the name Fran Barkley, where did that come from?
Mom's name growing up was Bovic.
Yeah, right.
B as in Victory, I-C-K, which was not actually her father's name.
Oh.
Bovic is an Americanization of Bordovicus, Lithuanian, but that was not my grandfather's name. He was actually Mattheulevicius, which in Lithuanian, it means Matthewson. I mean, a Lithuanian name if it sounds like a skin rash. It's probably like Garolitis, Vitus Garolitis. I mean, that sounds like something hydrocortisone cream could treat. But so Mom's family name was Bovic, which was an Americanization of Bordovicus, but my grandfather was actually Julius Maria Mattheulevicius of Vilnius, Lithuania. At 12 years old, he moved from Lithuania to the United States. And he had a cousin in the States already named Bordovicus. And so he posed as his cousin's brother and said, my name is Julius Bordovicus. And then he Americanized that to Bovic. So he was an illegal. My grandpa Bovic was an illegal. So the family name was Bovic, but the powers that were at the time in Hollywood decided that Bovic wasn't the prettiest name. And it's not. But so she wanted to keep the initial the same. So she told me she picked up the Los Angeles phone book and flipped to the B's.
Oh, and funny.
So Barkley, B-A-R-C-L-A-Y. And so that was her stage name. I love having a mom who had a stage name.
So Fran is in Hollywood living the dream, but her parents are worried about their little girl all alone in the big city.
Grandma and Grandpa Bovic strongly recommended that Mom take some time off, about a month, and go visit her sister, Lydia, who was in the military. She and her husband, Daryl, were stationed at the time at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And Mom wanted to continue working, so she, through her connections working in radio in Los Angeles, was able to contact a station out in North Carolina. It was either in Wilmington or Wrightsville Beach, close by to Camp Lejeune. So Mom went out there and worked part-time for this radio station, and one of her duties was touring the base and interviewing soldiers who were recuperating or whatever. And here comes the next scene in the Hollywood movie musical of my mom's life. She walks by with her entourage, walks by this office of this young Marine doctor or Navy doctor who was stationed on this Marine base. And this young doctor beckons his assistant, Mabel, because back then everybody's secretary assistant was named Mabel.
Of course.
Mabel arranged for Dad to meet Mom. And he also got word that Mom was staying on base in the guest room of, I guess, his commanding officer, somebody who was, militarily over my father in command.
In charge, yeah.
In charge of Dad. So Dad apparently went that night to his commanding officer's home on base and threw pebbles at what he thought was the window of the guest room.
Uh-oh.
Y'all can write the rest of this scene. Mom was absolutely charmed that this young Navy doctor would do this. And so she agreed to go out on a date with him on one stipulation, that they would stop by the Catholic church on base and spend a few moments in prayer. What I love is that the first time they went to the chapel together, the organist was working on tuning the organ. There was no service going on at the time, but he was working on tuning the organ. And often I've learned this to be the case with piano and organ tuners, is that they have a favorite song that they'd like to use to, once they've done it, to just sort of
sure.
Apparently this organist, his song to test his handicraft was Old Black Joe, a song that is not performed very much anymore, without a whole lot of careful setup and context.
I'm sorry, what?
So that was their official song. And then some years later, they decided that maybe Louis Armstrong's recording of A Kiss to Build a Dream On might be a little more perfect. That became their song eventually.
They fell in love, the young singer and the Navy doctor. They were engaged 6 weeks later, and on September 6th, 1952, 9 months after first meeting, they were married with a full military wedding. White dress uniform, swords, and all.
Well, it was great because the day they got married, a hurricane was threatening Camp. Camp Lejeune is very close to the coast, and there was a hurricane threatening September's hurricane season. And Mom insisted, they had already boarded up the chapel with the Mom insisted that they take the boards off. So when the pictures were taken, there would not be boards over the window. So even then, Frances Ann Elizabeth Bovick Barclay Bodovicus Matthew Levitus Jansen was getting her way.
Eventually, Fran Jansen became a mother of 5. I asked Drew if she ever expressed any regrets about walking away from Hollywood to raise a family.
I never heard any sense of regret. And as a kid, especially, I'm going to step out on a limb here and say, especially as a gay kid who was sort of fascinated by, as most gay boys are, by, just that whole show business, glitzy, glamorous nightclub, Ricky Ricardo.
Sure.
So that's kind of when I would listen to some of these recordings of my mom as a kid, I just sort of assumed that was her life. I didn't know she was living in probably a 400 square foot apartment and, barely getting by. All I knew was that she was, on stage. She sang at the Hollywood Bowl, So I just imagined that she had this really glitzy, glamorous life. And first of all, she leveled with me. She said, no, I mean, that was the image. But I mean, she said the traveling, on a train, it wasn't that glamorous. It really wasn't. We romanticize that sort of thing.
Sure.
But she said the best part was the music, where she's getting to make good music. But that never went away. I mean, she didn't need that to be her career. She continued to make music. She was fortunate in that her life situation was such that she didn't have to generate income. Her spouse generated the income. She very much was happy, being she was a very traditional woman in very many respects, although she was also a groundbreaker in so many respects too. She just sort of never felt like, I don't think she ever felt like she had to make that choice, to be honest. I think she just sort of felt like, this is what I did when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and now I can just do that for the sheer joy, whether it's singing in the choir at church or, at a convention or just at a family, casual family gathering that happened all the time. We made the Brady Bunch look like the Manson family. Seriously.
The Manson family.
She had this voice. And when she passed, I heard from so many people from our parish who that would be the thing they would focus on.
Yeah.
And she loved singing in church. Oh, she loved singing the old hymns. I mean, I played organ. I was the organist in grade school. I played for a lot of the school masses, and Mom would attend a lot of those. And I would sneak in what I knew were her favorites for a little offertory.
A little old Black Joe, too. No.
I never played Old Black Joe, but I did accidentally play a Chopin nocturne once at Mass, but we'll never speak of that again. I just thought it was a lovely piece, and Dad said, "Did you intend to play Chopin?" I just thought it was pretty.
In Fran's final years, Alzheimer's became a big challenge.
Fortunately, if there can be a fortunately, and actually there is a fortunately that can be found even in the tragedy of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
In Mom's case, it built a beautiful world in her head. To her last day, she lived somewhere that was very happy, almost without fail. To the very last conversation I remember having with her, it was always happy. What a gift. What a gift, not just to her, but to us.
I know.
Because if, we couldn't be with her in her last hours.
Right.
But the comfort comes in knowing that she was not aware of the seriousness of what was going on around her.
Interesting.
And we're so grateful for that, because had she had, her full wits about her, she would have known. She was the wife of a physician. She knew medical stuff. She knew about contagion, but she didn't.
Yeah,
she
didn't.
Probably having lunch with her sister Lydia when she passed. That's what I choose to believe.
Just to sort of clarify a little bit of that. So she ended up in Briarwood.
Right. Briarwood is generally considered. I want to make sure, because we were so concerned about even mentioning that she was at Briarwood in the obituary. The concern was that we would come off as somehow blaming this facility. And my brilliant little sister worded it in such a way that we ended, we put Briarwood in there, but we took great care to acknowledge that we think these people who work there are angels and heroes, and they are. This is the finest facility in the state of Arkansas, and my father was successful enough that we could afford to have the best for Mom.
Yeah.
The best for Mom. COVID didn't care.
Right.
It was at Briarwood. I think there was another facility elsewhere in Arkansas that had the first, what they would consider outbreak, but Briarwood was the first in Little Rock, and it was the one that just sort of exploded. They went something like from 2 to 48 overnight. Wow. And Mom initially tested negative. Jimmy and I were visiting Minneapolis in February and the first part of March, and we got home late on March 10th. We got in to see Mom on the 11th. That's the last time I saw her. The 12th is when everything went on lockdown.
Yeah.
But Brother Mark, the oldest of the 5 siblings, is a brilliant physician, as was our father. And he prepared us. He said, there's a very good chance she will convert from negative to positive. And when she does, given her health history, given her age, given all this will probably be her final chapter. And so we were as prepared as we could be for that. And in her case, it was mercifully quick.
Yeah.
From positive diagnosis to death was less than a week. I think it was a few days.
So, wow.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to you, to all you guys in the family, that you weren't able to be with her,
right?
To hold a vigil or whatever that we do with our loved ones as there is transitioning.
That was rough.
Yeah. I'm very sorry about that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The funeral was strange. Of course, everybody's going to have the same story to tell over and over again about, there are 5 of us, 4 spouses and daughter. So there were 10 of us and the priest at the funeral. And we were
separated.
Separated in the chapel.
Yeah.
And we are going to have a service later on when the threat has passed or has been mitigated to a certain extent. But it's very surreal. It's very surreal. But and Sue, I just want to thank you for letting me share Mom's story.
Oh,
I mean we're sad, but I mean the example she set, not just as a mother, but as a performer, as a musician. I mean, I have taken so many of those lessons that I didn't know I was learning. It's just, okay, here's good music. We're going to do a lot of it in our family while you're growing up. And then you're going to be able to take it out into the world and make your own, hopefully good music. And so that's the mom I got.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy about that.
Fran recorded again in 1997, this time with her son Drew at the piano.
I had just bought a new car. We had just opened How to Talk Minnesotan the musical, and I had a little mad money to play with, and so I bought a new 1997 Subaru Outback Sport and a hard drive digital cassette recording deck.
Oh, funny.
And brought it home with me. And one afternoon, Mom was making dinner, and I decided I wanted to get a few songs down. So it was just me playing piano and Mom singing, and so it was just 4 or 5 songs that I recorded with Mom one afternoon back in 1997. And even then, I knew that I was going to be happy that I had these recordings.
I'll be loving you always.
Frances Ann Bovick Jansen, known during her Hollywood years as Fran Barkley, died of COVID-19 on April 1st, 2020. She was 94 years old. In Nicholas Kristof's terrific article profiling the heroic work being done at 2 hospitals in the Bronx, he includes an email sent to young doctors by Dr. Michael Jones, who runs the physician resident program for the emergency departments at both hospitals. The email reads, "Take a few minutes, if you can, to talk about patients' families, their lives, their dreams. Ask if there is a loved one you can call. And lastly, 2 very different things. Hold your patient's hand for a minute as they near death or pass, and ask your entire team to stop for 5 or 10 seconds. Bow your heads, state the patient's name, and ask for silence."
Blanche Freckman,
Nick Webster,
Skylar Herbert,
Rana Zoe Munchin,
Ron Flanagan,
Fran Jansen.
Dr. Jones continues, "This helps us retain our humanity in times of such crisis and gives our patients' families some solace that they were treated with dignity."
Step closer every day till I finally see your face. I long for your embrace.
Thank you to Drew Jansen for bringing his delightful mother Fran to life so beautifully. And thank you to our extremely flexible cast, Shanan Custer, Mo Perry, Nancy Bagshaw Reasoner, Regina Williams, Day Yang, and Silvia Pontaza. And thank you to Zippy Laske for that gorgeous tune. This show was written by Shanan, Mo, Nancy, Sue, and Zippy. And thanks also to our male ally, Tony Axtell, for his ongoing engineering assistance. And thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Flip 'em the Bird. When you simply just don't have the words, let your gloves say it for you. Shop their fingerless gloves, ball caps, and t-shirts at flipemthebird.com. We so hope to be able to bring you another live episode very soon. We miss our audiences and pray you are all staying safe. In the meantime, you can listen. So stay tuned for our next virtual episode of Island of Discarded Women. Thank you, everyone. I'm Sue Scott.
Holding on to faith.